The Dog and Deuce Show is produced by Dymar Productions in association with Studio B Productions.
Welcome to Utah's longest-running sports podcast. This is Dog and Deuce. Every week, we take a deep dive into the Utah Jazz, the Utes, Cougars, Aggies, and everything in between. The Utes picked up an emotional win in LA last weekend and now look to upset Arizona State on Saturday. Plus, BYU fumbles the win against Boise State, the Jazz close out preseason, and Kyrie Irving causes even more drama. Also, John Gruden abruptly resigns in Vegas, and we preview every game of NFL Week 6. We've got all that and a whole lot more coming your way on Dog and Deuce number 383.
From Studio B in Salt Lake City, this is Dog and Deuce. Join the conversation at doganddeuce.com or send an email to doganddeuce@gmail.com.
Thank you for listening to episode 383 of the Dog and Deuce Show. If you want to know more, and I sure hope you do, show notes at doganddeuce.com.
You can watch this show all weekend long on your television sets on K-Patter TV, or if you're in southern Utah, watch on Backcountry TV. And as always, you can listen wherever you get your favorite podcasts. We would love to hear from you. Send us an email to doganddeuce@gmail.com. I'm Dog.
And I'm Deuce.
And this is episode 383. And man, what a weekend it was in college football. What a week it was for the Jazz. There's a lot of stuff going on here. Let's start with the Utes, man. I think we have to at this point. The Utes had what I would call probably the most emotional win in program history, at least since I've been alive. That was, I don't think anyone, last week you and I both picked Utah to win. You kind of talked me into it, though. It took a little bit of convincing, but we did. You had Utah winning 27-23. I had them winning 31-20. I don't know about you. I'm not going to speak for you, but I did not actually really feel like, at least on paper, that they would win. I thought the emotion was with them. It's one of those storylines in sports where if it's going to happen, this is a perfect time for it to happen, to break the streak of losses in the Coliseum. And they did it. They did it, and they looked damn good. Now, I don't know. What did you think? I mean, I know you picked Utah, and I know you don't make a pick unless you really believe it. But how, like, deep down, did you really think they were going to get this victory?
I mean, look, that's a hard question, but a fair one. I think I said last week, the real concern was, how would they come out? Would they be down too much early, or would they be up too much and then relax and give it up? And, the game played perfectly. I mean, obviously the way they ended the half really sort of stamped it, and then they continued in the third quarter. It was wild. And, USC obviously got a late touchdown to make it look a little more reasonable, but that was focused and inspired, I think, are the two words that, and they never took their foot off the gas. They seemed ready. I mean, I've asked a few people this. So when they're going for it on fourth down, right? And they pull the flea flicker, but they called timeout before. Do you believe it was the flea flicker, or did they change the play to make it look exactly the same? Because that was the exact same play, just a flea flicker. Did they get lucky, or did they change it? That's the question.
I don't know if you heard it, but that was not the play called. That's what everyone's saying. They're saying that Cam misread the armband. And so he called the play, but that's not the play that was designed. Which,
who said that?
Everyone
Coach
said.
William?
No. Cam said it. I can't remember who caught the ball, but he said it. Like, everyone was like, yeah, no, that was not what they called. And Cam just misread the play. And so Cam kind of audibled it on accident. Apparently it was, and I could be
really believe that, man.
Yes.
Or is that just trying to add to the legacy?
Are you telling me that Andy Ludwig called a flea flicker on 4th and 1? No.
Yeah.
No way. Absolutely not.
Because it was the perfect play to catch him. He was running the same hole. they had the gap filled both times. And so, yeah, no, I think he switched it up.
That's not an Andy Ludwig play. There's no way. That guaranteed. I mean, I'm believing the people that were on the field and knew. And I'm believing that it was a mistake, and it ended up being, in my opinion, the most important play of the game. I jump scared my daughter on that play, actually, like really, really bad, because I was kind of expecting them to lose. It was an emotional game. I was just happy that the Utes were out there playing, and that they were keeping it close. But once they ran that play, that flea flicker, and they caught it in the end zone, I jumped up and screamed and scared the hell out of my daughter.
For sure. I caught that. And here's my question though. If what you're saying is true, and Cam Rising is so dialed into the offense after being in the program for so many years, and knowing OC's proclivities, you don't think if he got a flea flicker play, he'd be like, whoa, what? He just misread it? I don't understand. Like, yeah,
I think that could be the story.
That's pretty weird. Like, oh, I misread the play call. And so we went with a flea flicker, which you're telling me is totally in opposition to anything the University of Utah football program would ever do. And he's not like, wait, what? I'm confused. Why are we running a flea flicker? Like, this is not something I've heard of, practiced, or am aware of that we would do in the University of Utah. I mean, it's just bizarre. Like, to me, it just seems.
So what do you think happened then? So you don't think
I think he called it.
It's just, there's no way. There's just no way.
What do we have to lose? I think they were like, what do we have to lose?
But that's not Andy Ludwig, and that's definitely not Kyle Whittingham. And if that was if that play was called and it worked out how it did, I still think Whittingham's pissed, because that is not his style. He does not mess around with that kind of stuff. He likes to keep it boring and vanilla, and so does Andy Ludwig. That's not Andy's style, dude. Not at all. Like, there's no way. But it could be that Cam got to the line, is like, all right, let's have a little fun with this. And they could be doing the whole like misread the armband as a cover to protect Cam. That could be, or I don't know. But I definitely, I would have a hard time believing. I think hell would freeze over before Andy Ludwig would call a flea flicker on 4th and 1.
I mean, man, I guess the cojones, if you're willing to give Cam that audible or misread, it just seems so fantastical,
right?
To me,
it does. It does. But if
that goes wrong, does Cam Newton ever see the field? Who's the third string quarterback?
Cam Newton.
Like, you audible or misread that and they run it back for a touchdown? Like, I mean,
did you call him Cam Newton?
Yeah, sorry, Cam Rising.
No, it's perfect.
It seems like, yeah.
But I do not believe for a second that Andy Ludwig called it. I think either it was a on purpose audible, or an accident. But I don't ever see Andy Ludwig doing something that ballsy ever.
I mean, let's be honest. The play, it was a perfect call because it looked the same, and they had it defended though, and that ball was almost a little short. I mean, their coverage was pretty solid on that. So I don't know.
It was a hell of a catch.
It was. And a throw. I'd like to see a little more distance on it, either towards the back or out in front of him. But hey, it worked out. And I don't know. I'm still wondering about that. I just can't get on board with that. I'll go with it, because why argue about it if they're trying to do whatever they're trying to do? But that was wild.
That was wild.
The way they come out in the third quarter, even better. I mean, it was a victory from gun to whistle, if you will. And here comes Arizona State into Rice Eccles, if my memory serves me correctly. It's a big game. It'll be interesting to see how they bounce back.
It will be
that emotional high, right?
It'll be telling for sure. I mean, that was a very emotional win for sure for the Utes. It much needed. I think they needed something to hang their hat on. It was an incredibly depressing couple weeks. They were going through a lot. So they definitely needed that, and that was a lot of fun to see. I had a lot of fun watching that game, I'm not going to lie. Before we jump into ASU, though, I have a question for you. So I was listening to local sport. I think it was Spence Checketts, and he had this is after the USC game, which is interesting because he had the play-by-play voice of USC on, which they usually do that before the game, the week before the game, and not the week after. But it was interesting, and they were talking a little bit about what's going on with Urban Meyer, and could he possibly be USC's next head coach. And this dude just immediately shut it down. He's like, there's no, he's too toxic. And then, so Spence then asked him, what about Kyle Whittingham? Over the years, we've heard lots of rumblings that Kyle could be the USC head coach. And this dude says, well, no, because of Kyle's deep-seated hatred of USC. And then he kind of just goes on as if he didn't say it. And I mean, to Spence's credit, he said, what do you mean? Deep-seated hatred. Have you ever heard of anything like this? Because the guy is like, well, it's in the media all the time, and it's very obvious that he has a deep-seated hatred for USC. I have not ever heard anything like that before, and I've been following this program very closely for many years.
I mean, no, but yes. Like, if you don't go to USC, don't you hate them?
Yeah, but like, is it legit. Any worse? But he made it seem as if he has it out for USC more than like BYU or more than any other conference rival that Kyle might have. I understand hating USC. I can't stand USC. I hate him, but I don't think that Kyle has any more animosity towards USC than any other conference foe that's spoiled a good season in years past. I just don't know where this is coming. He acted as if Kyle has it out for him.
I mean, in a certain way, I would say, yeah, I would agree with him. I didn't hear that, and I'd have to hear more specifically what he said. But to a certain degree, when you're, mid-tier or trying to climb the ladder, I would think to a certain degree you would have to have that in order to keep moving forward. I mean, they are, whether you like it or not, they're the banner program of the Pac-12 when it comes to football, historically, right? So you always want to knock off number one. And then Oregon, 1A, Washington, or two probably to Washington. So, like, I mean, I would think you would have that sort of, I don't know if he's ever really said it, but I feel like you have to have it to be successful, because that's the motivation.
The point where you never even consider taking a job at that school, where USC is like you said, the banner carrying program of the Pac-12, storied program, very history has been very kind to them, and also they could offer him a ton of money. So, but he was saying that Kyle would never even consider it because he has some deep-rooted hatred and bitterness towards USC. I don't believe that for a second. I'm not saying Kyle Whittingham would take a job at USC, but he's interviewed there, right? Hasn't he interviewed there?
I don't know. I thought it was Tennessee he interviewed with, but here, I think Kyle Whittingham's in the point. No, I don't think there's any other job for him than the University of Utah. I mean, let's remember he came up under Lavelle Edwards, and Lavelle is going to be, and rightfully so, you can't say BYU football and not have that association. I think Kyle Whittingham wants that with Utah football, and he's on his way to, minus the national title, like exceeding what Lavelle Edwards did in many ways.
Yep.
As far as conference and possibly conference championships. I know that's kind of blasphemy if you're down in Utah County, and it's not met with any disrespect either.
Here comes the hate mail.
Yeah, Lavelle Edwards changed BYU football for time and eternity, and I like the dude, and him and Ron McBride's relationship through the rivalry added some fun that I don't know where we would be without. But to me, like, yeah, I don't think you would. I think at where he's at, and with all that he's experienced in the last year, I mean, let's not forget, we talk a lot about the kids, and rightfully so, because they're kids still playing football up there. But good God, if you're on that coaching staff, the last 18 months haven't exactly been a cakewalk for you either.
True. True.
And if you can somehow, I mean, I think he's put Utah on the map as far as the Pac-12 reasonably well already. But if you can further cement a legacy of top notch on the map in the Pac-12, maybe even throw in a national title, and that's crazy talk. I get it, but this is how I would be imagining it if I were Kyle Whittingham.
Right.
A Pac-12 championship, maybe get in the playoff and see what happens from there. It's going to be hard to do better than, or you'll be the first in Utah football history and kind of set the chart the course, if you will, for the program going forward. Those people aren't forgotten.
Right. It's true.
I mean, you'll just be another person at USC. There's
true.
Lots of famous head coaches there. Same with Stanford. You got Bill Walsh. You can be numero uno at the University of Utah for a long time to come. I would just think that's how he might think about it, but maybe I'm wrong.
No, I think you're right, and I don't think he's leaving. I can hear all the trolls at Cougar board right now firing up their keyboards angrily.
But I just said,
Dog and Deuce, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. They know how to spin at a Cougar board, man. They know how to make things very toxic. They heard one negative thing, and they're going to doganddeuce@gmail.com. They're going to be firing off. I can hear it already. But let's talk about this ASU game. So ASU, I don't know, man. They're good. I don't know what else to say. They're good. And I think I hear a lot of people kind of discounting them and dismissing them a little bit because, and look, I love the win against USC. It was much needed. Never won at the Coliseum. Never won in that building. Haven't beat USC in LA since 1916. That's before World War II. That's like World War I era. Think about that. It's over 100 years. Right. So I'm very happy about it. Don't get me wrong. But, I mean, as fan bases, and I don't mean this just Utah fan base, but fans in general, we tend to overreact to things. That's what we do. And I'm not sure I would be jumping on the fact that Utah's back already because they had one win, which is very much needed. And ASU is good. They're really, really good. That said, this is kind of a very Pac-12 type game to lose if you're a ranked Pac-12 team. This is exactly what happens in this league year in and year out. A ranked team goes in and loses to a team that they, on paper, shouldn't lose to. And this is why the Pac-12 every single year cannibalizes itself because of games like this. So it is set up to be a prototypical Pac-12 upset game. That said, I'm just not sure it's going to happen. ASU is playing very, very well. They had the one loss to BYU, who is very, very good, despite losing to Boise State. And we'll talk about that game in a minute. So to me, the Utes have their work cut out for them. I mean, technically, the Utes are very much still in the Pac-12 South race, which is all you can ask for at this point, especially with a lot of the issues they've had this year. So they got to win. It's going to be a tall order, man. I don't know how you see this one playing out.
Well, you're right. I mean, ASU is, we thought they would be good. We didn't know with all the coach stuff over the offseason, violations protocol, how that would play out. It hasn't played out yet. They looked decent versus BYU, not overwhelming. Obviously, there was a single play that sort of defined that game, although there were many plays in the game. And they've done well. But you're right. I want to point out, let's not forget, this happened this year. Oregon, goes on the road, looks amazing, loses. UCLA goes on, beats LSU, which is whatever they are, but it's still LSU, then loses. So it's not unheard of that ASU can do that as well.
True, right? But also think about this. Who beat Oregon? Stanford. And who did ASU beat last week? And they held them to 10 points. Stanford. I
got you. But, I mean, let's not forget, no one thought Stanford would be that well either.
True.
So, I mean, I don't know that theory sort of doesn't favor Utah. I'm more worried about sort of the idea of how they're going to respond. I mean, Monday was Aaron Lowe's funeral services. Coming off that high of USC, I'm worried that they might not come out the gates like we hope. And that can be dangerous, especially if it puts, the offense in super passing situations. But what I saw from Utah versus USC, I mean, great offensive line play, good running by Tavion Thomas. Cam Newton played obviously awesome.
Cam Newton.
God dang it. Why do I keep doing that? Cam Newton's on the brain. Cam Rising. I apologize, Mr. Cam Rising. I don't have a lot of Cams in my life. In fact,
right.
Cam Newton's the only Cameron I know. So now, and I don't even know him. But Cam Rising, I'm just going to call him Rising from now on. Rising ran for one as well. So something tells me, I guess this will really sort of probably is the defining moment of Utah's season. ASU coming in, beating Stanford, looking good, up on an upward trajectory. Utah coming off a huge win after tragedy. What do we know? Everything that they probably set out for at the beginning of the season is still in front of them. Win the division, get to the Pac-12 championship, win that, and go from there. It's all right in front of the Utes. They just have to win. For those reasons and the way the offensive line looked, Tavion Thomas holding the ball like it was a safe that he had just broke out of jail or something. Yep. There was no way that was coming out. So I got the Utes, man. I don't know.
Interesting.
I respect Jaden Daniels. I respect Zero on the defense from ASU. I can't remember his name. They're looking mean. They're looking fierce. They're prime too. It's gonna be a heavyweight matchup, and I just wish the weather was like it has been the last few days. My understanding is Saturday is supposed to be pretty nice. So let the rain come. Let's let those Arizona boys feel some mountain weather, snow.
Yep.
And I got the Utes. I think it's going to be more low scoring. Like I don't know why. So I'm going to stick 24-21 Utah. Close though.
I like your score. I hope you're right. I'm glad you mentioned the offensive line play, because I don't know what happened, who lit the fire under their asses, but man, they looked good. And I have to ask this, and people got a little testy with me for asking this on Twitter, but I got to think, if the offensive line would have played like this from the beginning of the season, is Charlie Brewer gone? Is he still playing? Did he look as good as Cam? Would he have looked as good as Cam? I don't think so. I think Cam is definitely the better player, but I'm trying to figure out why, and I don't want to overdo this because this has been done to death, but I'm trying to figure out why Charlie Brewer was listed as QB1 at the beginning of the season. And I just wonder what could have been. Not that he would have been any better, but I just wonder how he would have played. I'm curious if the offensive line had protected him as well as they did Cam in the USC game.
No, Charlie Brewer was a mistake. He has never been, nor ever was, QB number one. Like, I'm serious. Like, we talked about his arm strength. He has very little escapability. Cam Rising.
You were this close to doing it again.
Brings so much more to the table in ways that are not only intangible, but I think skill set you can demonstrably see by his on the field play. You just got to chalk it up to it was a mistake.
Yeah.
And sometimes those happen.
It happens.
Yeah. I mean, would he have been better? For sure. Because Charlie Brewer needs that. But would the Utes be better? I mean, I don't know if they'd be undefeated with this kind of play. Because, I mean, it wasn't perfect by any stretch of the imagination. And Cam Rising made some room when necessary by movement, which I'm not sure Charlie Brewer has quite as great, a ceiling at being able to do that and still make a play downfield as Cam Rising does. So, I mean, no, I think it was a mistake. And I mean, most people were 50-50 on it. Let's be clear. Like, no one was, at least I wasn't, and I don't feel like anyone I've heard back in the day was super all in on Charlie Brewer other than the coaching staff at the University of Utah.
Yeah, I agree. One thing, I think the key to this ASU game, we know Jaden Daniels is terrified of that Utah defense with very good reason. They ate him up a couple years ago. I think if you hit him hard early on, I think you get in his head. Because he's even mentioned it at press conferences and in other interviews, how tough that Utah defense is. I mean, I guarantee he's still having nightmares. If Devin Lloyd can get in there and knock his ass to the ground, I think Utah actually has a chance to come out of this. That said, ASU's really good. I'm not going to downplay them. Unfortunately, I have ASU winning 31-27. Hope I'm wrong. I hope you're right. I know you love those defensive battles, so you'd love to see a 24-21 game. I don't care as long as Utah gets a victory, but I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, it will be interesting. I mean, they like to spread them out, and you hit on a good point. Jalen Daniels is amazing. And I watched the Stanford game. He was getting away and making 1-yard gains out of what should have been 5-yard losses, which doesn't seem like a lot, but it negatively affects a defense. When you're like, man, that should have been a 3-yard loss. You got 1 yard. I hate you.
Right.
It happened again. I hate you. It just gets frustrating. But Utah does have a history of roughing him up. And in a lot of ways, he's like Tyler Huntley. He's slight in build, right? Super skilled, but slight in build. So if you get after him, it can really have a negative consequence. I think they will. I mean, based on the fact that Arizona State likes to spread you out, that means there's going to be more defensive backs, which allows for corner blitzes, slot blitzes, Devin Lloyd to come off the edge. I think actually, if the coverage can hold up a little bit longer than it has in a few games this year, I think it's going to be a rough day for him.
It could be. It could be. I think that's the way you win the game, though. And then just make sure that offensive line. I mean, whatever they were smoking the day before in the last game, they gotta keep that up because they were on fire and they look great. Those are the two keys of the game, I think. Let's move on to BYU. They did their best, man, to lose this game, and they succeeded. I mean, I'll tell you what, it's just tough to watch a team fumble it 4 times. They lost 3 of those fumbles. That said, in fact, let me pull up the page here so I know exactly what I'm talking about. That said, they only lost by a few. It was a 9-point game, and it was actually closer than that, and they had a chance at the end. That's tough to do when you fumble it, when you turn it over 3 times. So, I mean, we hate moral victories on this show. Always have, as long as we've been doing it. But the fact that you didn't get blown out and you turn the ball over that many times, and this is just basic ball security stuff. You know, this is just stuff you gotta fix, and it's very fixable. So they were close to winning that game. But man, you can't turn it over that much. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah. And I mean, look, you had to feel like one of those games was going to come.
At some point, agreed.
Right? Like, and that's really sort of the test. You hope it comes against a lesser foe, so much lesser that you can overcome it. Right? Unfortunately, it didn't for BYU. And we talked about this last week. I mean, these games are always close, and they're very rarely cheap. They're very rarely blowouts. They're mostly very tight coming down to the end, no matter how it plays out for the first 3.5 quarters. And there it was again, despite their turnovers, BYU was in it and looking at it and probing, but they couldn't get it done. And this may be an accumulation of everything else they've been through the first, however many odd games throughout the year. They've kind of overcome quite a bit.
True.
And at some point the odds are going to give and you're going to lose one. So it'll be also, it's also interesting to see how they'll rebound. I don't anticipate another stinker, but one can never know.
Well, Baylor, this is a tall order for them. I mean, this is the toughest road game they've had all season and probably will have all season, depending on how USC looks at the end of the year. Utah beat them, beat USC in LA. So if Utah can do it, I think BYU is a better team this season, at least so far. So I think they could do it. So this is really going to be the biggest test they have on the road all year long. And so it's going to be tough. This is going to be one of those games, kind of how you said the ASU game is going to be the defining moment, the defining game going forward for Utah season. I think this is going to be the defining game, at least in regard to how good BYU is, because the schedule eases up a little bit towards the end. So I think this is going to be a really good indication of, is this team legit? Are they not? What's going to go? Especially coming off a loss at home, to a rival. And that is very much a rivalry between Boise State and BYU now. So this is going to be a very important game. Baylor is minus 6.5 in this game at home. I expect them to cover pretty easily, I think. Well, not pretty easily. I have Baylor taking this one 40-31. And it's basically kind of based on what I saw last week, what I've seen from Baylor so far. Baylor has some very impressive wins this year. This would be a huge win for them to take down BYU, especially in front of their home crowd. That makes it that much more difficult. If this was at Lavelle Edwards, I'm calling this exactly the opposite. I'm going 40-31 BYU. But since it's on the road, I got to go with Baylor in this one.
Remember, I think if we remember, we're talking Texas. BYU travels.
True.
Remember the
Taysom?
I can't remember. I think they played Texas some point in Taysom Hill down there. I don't know. They travel, so I don't know how big of a difference the crowd size will be, but I think you're right. Generically speaking, I got to be honest. I haven't watched a whole lot of Baylor tape, so
yeah,
they're not in my wheelhouse, and I've been struggling in that lately. But BYU, it's an opportunity for BYU to go into a recruiting zone, so you got to think of it like that. You know, the coaches are stacked. And I agree with your assessment. I don't know. I think your points might be a little high, even though historically Baylor's known to score a lot. What's the over under from Vega? That seems high.
Well, let me just run through the scores they put up this year.
Okay.
So Texas State, this one admittedly not great. First game of the year, 29. Texas Southern, 66. Kansas, 45. Iowa State, 31. Only 14 at Oklahoma State in a game they lost, the only game they've lost. And West Virginia, 45. So they're very capable of turning it up. And again, I think this is going to be similar to the previous game we just previewed. I think if they jump out on BYU right early, I think after that crushing loss, it could be a little demoralizing. I can see this thing snowballing. So BYU's really got to stay strong when they take their first punch.
Yeah, I hear you. I don't think any of those defenses have performed quite as admirably as BYU has through the first stretch of the season. So I'm not willing to go 40. I see it as a 31-24 victory for Baylor. And I agree with you. Like if it were at Lavelle Edwards Stadium, I'd flip it just the same. I just think the point total is a little high for my liking. And we'll see. I mean, if who we thought BYU was 10 days ago, if that's who they are, then the score will be flipped regardless.
Agreed.
Road or not.
Agreed.
But it's very kind of, we don't know, especially after what we saw versus a Boise State team who isn't the Chris Peterson and other Boise States, at least not right now.
Yeah. Man, Cougar Board's really pissed at us this week.
Wow. Hey.
I mean, we're just calling it like we see it, man. We've always done that,
And we'll probably be wrong. So,
probably.
Food for them.
To give them a little ammo, both of us only picked BYU to win 6 games this year. And they're one away from that? 2 away from that? 1 away from that right now. They're 5-1. So what do we know, dude? We don't know jack. There is so much to talk about this week, so we're kind of blowing through this week's games just because there's so much other stuff going on. But let's talk about Utah State, UNLV. Again, just more proof that we don't know what the hell we're talking about. Actually, no. I'm sorry. This is proof that we do know what we're talking about because Vegas picked Utah State to only win 3 games this year. You and I said easy, they'll get 3. In fact, we both picked them going 5-7. Right now, they are 3-2, and the schedule gets much easier. They have played BYU. They have played Boise State. They have played Air Force. They have played Washington State, who's not great, but they've got their difficult games out of the way for the most part. They got UNLV.
UNLV, baby. If you're a Mountain West Conference team, is there any better team other than maybe New Mexico to see roll in?
I don't think so. UNLV is awful. Dude, they are awful.
That's not...
I know. They're 0-5. I want to read you their losses. So I'm going to save the first loss for the end because it's the funniest. They lost 37-10 to Arizona State, 48-3 to Iowa State, 38-30 to Fresno State, 24-17 to UTSA, and they lost to Eastern Washington in double overtime to open the season. Eastern Washington. Just think about that for a minute. This is a bad team.
Was that on the road?
That was, Allegiant Stadium. I think it was a...
No, that's a home game.
Yeah, that's a home game.
So that's shocking.
And that was in the new stadium, too.
Yeah, but Iowa State, I mean, the other 3 losses minus UTSA, those are some pretty good squads, in all honesty.
Well, they are, but the way they lost...
Yeah, the margin's bad.
The only one that's semi-respectable is Fresno State because they only lost by 8.
Yeah, that's a good loss. Again, no moral victories. But like I said, only New Mexico or UNLV, those are the ones you want to see. Just remember when Utah lost to UNLV, it was like you would have thought the world was crumbling.
Yep, exactly.
If you're Utah State, you're stoked. You're likely to get over. You're likely to make Vegas lose some money this week, right? That's how I'm looking at it. And then you got Colorado State, and I'll look at Colorado State next week, but I like their chances in that one as well. So you're going to get over the Vegas hurdle. Now the question is, what can you make of the year? You're coming off a bye. You're rested. You're healed. Maybe the playbook and practice has been sharp and tight. I got Utah State winning. I'm not going to go big because UNLV has some pride, right? I'm not just going to, they got to have a little pride.
Do they, though? Do they?
28-14, Utah State.
Okay, we're not all that far off in our scores. I got 34-10, Utah State. Yeah, that's, dude, here's a surprising thing. The spread is only 7.
Yeah.
That's
exactly.
surprising to me. And I don't know if that's just Vegas not doing their due diligence. I don't know if that's money moving around too much.
No such thing as Vegas not doing their due diligence.
There have been a couple times. It doesn't happen often. There have been a few times where I'm like, I don't really understand this line when it opens up. Obviously, after it opens up, it moves around because of where the bets are going. So I don't know, man. We'll see. I definitely see Utah State. They should. If they don't win in convincing fashion, I'm a little worried. We'll just put it that way.
They'll have missed the high of the beginning of the year, right? They'll miss the high.
Exactly.
Like right now where they stand, I think every Aggie fan would be pretty happy. The two losses, they had a chance, or they performed well minus turnovers. So, it's better than last year, and you're looking at UNLV to win 4-2. I think most Utah State fans would be pretty stoked about that.
Agreed. Okay, Jazz have closed out preseason play. Anything that you want to take away from that, or did take away from that, or are you just ready for the season to get going?
Is anyone hurt?
I don't think so.
Move ahead. Let's roll. Sure.
Someone went down hard the other night, though, and I can't remember off the top of my head, hit his head on the court. It was one of those things where on the replay, I had to look away because it hit hard. And I haven't heard what the result of that. I gotta think concussion. Because it was bad. Other than that, I don't think anyone's hurt. Jared Butler looks fantastic. It's going to be very difficult to keep him out of the lineup. Rudy hit a jump shot last night, a 15-footer. If he can add that to his game, don't bet on it. Don't bet on it. It's probably not gonna happen. But if he can add that to his game, watch out, man. It's getting dangerous. If he can actually add some offense that he facilitates on his own, could be scary.
Yeah, look, Butler. I see Twitter. I see the love. I still see that.
You haven't watched him play yet, have you?
Only highlights. Okay. I really don't have much interest. It doesn't matter. And without an injury, if we think Jared Butler is going to play a huge freaking role on what the Jazz are trying to accomplish, either it's the steal of the draft, which it could be.
I think it already is.
We'll see.
If he stays healthy.
Dude, he hasn't played a regular season game.
Sure.
Let's chill out, Jazz Nation. He hasn't even seen a minute in an actual NBA game. He has 0 stats right now.
It's true.
0. He hasn't scored a point in an NBA game.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
I know. Thank you. I appreciate you acknowledging that. Yes, I want him to. I think some combination that would be better for the Jazz is him, look, there's 48 minutes in a game. And as I imagine it, Mike Conley's playing 23 to 28. Somewhere in that range, probably starting at 23 and getting to 28 as we get closer, maybe more. So what does that leave? 16 minutes, between 25 and 16 minutes for Trent Forrest and Jared Butler to make good on.
Oh, it was Trent Forrest who went down. Now that you said it. Okay.
But he has more experience. We're relying on Trent Forrest. Let's not just overlook him. He needs to be well for the Jazz. And I think as far as I'm concerned, he has an upper hand just time in actually the league. So unless Jared Butler is just torching him in practice, they're going to split those minutes unless Trent Forrest can't perform.
And I don't think anyone's expecting Jared Butler to go out there and be starting and get, huge minutes, but it's going to be tough to keep him out of playing meaningful minutes, 12 minutes a night or 10 minutes a night. It's going to be tough. It's because just based on what we've seen, based on what he did in college, if he can stay healthy, that's the problem. I think the heart condition that he has, it's a little scary. That's the main thing. That's why he fell to 40. And that's why. So it'll be interesting.
But wasn't the first 2 preseason game Trent Forrest dunking and everyone's like, Trent Forrest, I swear to God.
Like I said,
maybe my memory is not the best right now, but I swear to God, he had a monster dunk and played awesome in the first 2 preseason games. And see, what are we doing? We don't need Ricky Rubio. Like, we don't need anyone. Why get a backup? Dude. So it's like, it's so ebb and flow. Like, we'll see. I'm excited. Let me say that. I'm excited for some basketball, Jazz basketball.
Wednesday, baby. Wednesday. Here we go.
That's right.
Season kicks off. Can't wait.
I'm way excited. What do you think of this new color scheme? Going to the all black, I hear, is coming down.
It's black, white, and yellow. I love it. I freaking love it. It's amazing.
That's perfect for your schematic.
It is. Look at me. Look what I'm wearing right now. I'm wearing all black with white tints. That's all. That's it. I'm wearing black shorts with a little bit of red because of the Utes. Yeah, I love it. It's the best color scheme we've ever had. People are losing their minds over this, James. People are freaking out over a color scheme. Who cares? Like, the Jazz, those mountain jerseys that everyone is in love with and gets so excited about are awful. They've always been awful. They will always be awful. They're embarrassing. They look stupid. The colors are, I mean, I don't mind the purple, but mixed with teal, it doesn't work. You can't do it. But guess what? I don't care because the Jazz are playing. I don't really care what colors they're wearing. It doesn't matter. As long as they have a season and they're going out and looking good as a team, I do not care what they're wearing. The level of anger people have over a color scheme is baffling to me. It's baffling.
Well, let me say this. Like, I don't necessarily like it. I feel like it's like...
Don't you like the Steelers?
We aren't the Steelers.
I know.
The Steelers never change their uniforms. That's not like that.
But you don't like those colors?
I do for the Pittsburgh Steelers that have never changed their uniforms. Yes, I do for since we've been alive. It's changed very little. You know what I mean? You remember those bumblebee ones they have? The Steelers? Yeah, I don't like those. I like the ones that have been in it. So, I mean, I don't care. Like you said, I think a lot will change if they start sucking right out the gate and they're wearing black. To me, it's a Brooklyn Nets look. It's a Brooklyn Nets look.
They had to change. They had to add the yellow because it was too close to Brooklyn and San Antonio. So they had to add a little bit of flair in there. And whatever, I don't care. Brooklyn just barely got this look. Like, it's not like they've had it forever.
Okay, what about you? Like the LA Clippers, Grand Theft Auto look?
I don't like the logo, but I love the colors.
See, I don't like. I mean, this is one area where I'm very traditionalist. Like, I like the blue, I like the green. Sure, I'll swallow the yellow. I mean, I like original purple and white. I mean, it's why the Celtics and the Lakers are dope. They don't change really.
I guess, man. Well, they got to find an identity, and I understand because
how about winning? Keep winning.
That's fine.
That's a good identity.
Like, I don't care, man. Like, whatever. Honestly, the uniform talk is the dumbest thing ever. Like, how. And we've talked about stuff like this before, like when the Utes, when they started doing new stuff, we would talk about their helmets and all that stuff. We could talk about it, but the level of anger that people have over this is ridiculous. It's so stupid. We got
next level capitalism, bro.
That's all that is. It's buy more jerseys.
Yep.
That's it. Buy more merch. Yeah, that's it, man. Okay, we have 15 minutes left. We still have so many huge stories to cover. First of all, we got to go Kyrie Irving. It has been announced that he will not be joining the team until he gets vaccinated. It's sounding a little bit like he might be mulling it over and he might actually get vaccinated.
Is it? I heard him last night as I was dozing off about how equal justice. I couldn't even understand how it was relevant to the question that was asked of him.
Well, he's an idiot, first of all. Let's just say this straight up.
He's unique. I don't want to call anyone an idiot.
I cannot respect someone who thinks the earth is flat when there's so much evidence. I can't, like, it's not even the vaccine hesitancy. I get being hesitant. That's fine. No big deal, dude. It's right to question things. I totally understand that. But when it's so widely documented how much this helps and all the good it's doing and how little to no damage there's being done by the vaccine, it gets a little frustrating. It's getting to the point now where I think he's so prideful about it that he's more, and a lot of people have fallen into this trap. He's being stubborn about it. It's the lost cost fallacy or the sunk cost fallacy, whatever it's called, when you have devoted so much time and effort into it and your pride cannot allow you to say, I was wrong, I'm sorry. And I think that's where he's at. I did see some comments. I think it was on an Instagram Live or something where he said, I'm not going to give up basketball. I'm not going to give it all up for a vaccine, So it sounds like maybe he's mulling it over at least.
Yeah, I mean, you can even go biblical. That's just foolish pride.
Agreed.
And then you could add, I mean, you have too much money if you can be turning down this kind of money.
Dude.
Look, you have a right to your opinions. And I guess I'm always sort of bummed out when a reporter doesn't ask, can you quantify the threshold that would need to be met in order for you to feel safe about it? Like, that's the question I want to know. Okay, you have these opinions.
James,
Great.
It's the simplest question and no one asks it.
Right. Like, okay. And I don't even need you to answer it now. I'll circle back with you in 4 days so you have time to figure it out. Like, what does this mean? You're not ready yet. Okay, fine, great. When are you? What is it that you need to see in order to have the hesitation eliminated? Because Kevin Durant got it. And let's be honest, Kevin Durant is burner phone dude, baller. Like, the guy is not exactly, LeBron James got it. Andrew Wiggins got it. And he was in the same position as you. So what is it that you need to see quantified in order for you to make the decision that literally this team could do something so freaking special?
It's true. They
possess, and the players they possess. Like, man, if I'm Kevin Durant and I'm James Harden, good for them for saying, man, we're not going to accommodate you. You accommodate us. We're sick of accommodating you. We accommodated you all last year when you were going through some heavy stuff. But now you're putting our children at risk so they can get vaccinated. Any elderly people we come into contact with.
Right.
My mom is over 60. You know how much Kevin Durant loves his mom. Like, I mean, I'm sort of happy for them to draw the line and say, like, dude, do you want to play or don't you? This is how it is. We live in New York City.
Yep.
You wanted to come here.
Agreed.
It's not in Boston anymore, So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I feel like you're right. He's going to dig in his heels for a while and try to make it some kind of fairy tale thing. But better be careful, man. These Nets come out on fire. I don't know if he's tradable. Yeah, I don't know if he's tradable, but he might be cuttable, and it's guaranteed contract. I guess so. He's not cuttable. He would have to be tradable. But
the dumbest part of the whole thing to me is that he says, and this is coming from a source, so who knows, how this was actually said, but the idea that he's giving a voice to the voiceless. Anti-vax people have the loudest voices in the goddamn room. They do not shut up about it. They don't stop. I don't want to hear this voiceless crap. You can, like that's ridiculous. You're just being stubborn right now, and you're trying to be a martyr, and it's ridiculous. When Donald Trump Jr. is praising you, you might want to look at your priorities there, buddy, because it's not really aligning. I don't think those are the kind of people that he wants to be associated with. I don't know. Could be wrong. Anyway.
Kanye West did.
Kanye West did. That's true. Let's move on, though, to someone who's an even bigger idiot. And I've always thought that John Gruden is not the sharpest tool in the shed. He is not even that great of a football coach, to be honest with you. He had one great season. He won a Super Bowl. Other than that, I think he's close to 500 as a coach.
Whoa, though. Hold up.
Sorry.
Didn't Rich Gannon win a freaking MVP under him?
Did Rich Gannon win an MVP?
I think so. I mean, his record may not be freaking Nick Saban, but what he did with the Raiders before he went to Tampa Bay was pretty good. I mean, the Raiders were in the talk and the conversation. Like, I'm pretty sure, like, if not, his statistics were insanity. Let's not forget he did.
He won an MVP. Rich Gannon won MVP in 2002.
I'm getting sort of like,
holy
I'm not
cow.
trying to excuse his behavior.
Holy cow, man.
We're about to get into that.
I'll tell you right. I don't mind saying John Gruden he's not that great of a coach. He's not. He's overhyped, overrated. And after watching Hard Knocks, that's when I first realized, oh, this guy's an idiot. He's a dumb person. And now you're seeing his ignorance shine through in these emails that are just pretty disgusting and unexcusable. They'd be inexcusable 20 years ago. The stuff that he's saying in official emails. I mean, I know he wasn't an employee of the NFL at the time. He was an employee of ESPN, but it's inexcusable even back then. So it's good that he's gone. Don't let the door hit you on the ass on the way out. And now the Raiders are left kind of leaderless, and I don't know what they do at this point. So we had to talk about this because I don't like John Gruden. I never really have.
So let me say this. Like, I think you have to separate the two. Like, I don't think his win-loss record may allow you to say that he's not that great of a coach, but I remember the seasons, and he's got one more Super Bowl ring than the Minnesota Vikings franchise ever has. So let's just put that in perspective, and Rich Gannon was an MVP. So let's put that in a little bit of perspective. But as far as these emails, and I haven't even read them, honestly, I've got the context of generically what they say. I don't need to read them to understand that it was inappropriate and inexcusable. And based on, and the Raiders didn't look well. They really hurt me last week in my picks. They didn't look very good. They looked misconstrued, discombobulated, whatever the word you want to use. They looked like their mind was somewhere else. And, without some solid leadership moving forward, I wouldn't be picking the Raiders a lot. Right. But yeah, I mean, he did the right thing. When you make mistakes like that, you resign and move on. It might be one of the only times he did the right thing, and I'm sure there was plenty of pressure from the league and Mark Davis as well. But they're inexcusable, and he answered the bell, and I'll be interested to see how it affects the Raiders. I'll be interested to see how it affects him going forward.
We got 5 minutes left. I have a hard out today, so unfortunately we can't go long. But real quick, I want to say that Brandon Staley, he was asked about John Gruden, and his answer was perfect and it was beautiful, and he just basically said, I'm more worried about the people he was talking about in that email. I'm more worried about whether or not they're okay than John Gruden. And I thought that's a very, very mature, and that's how we should be viewing this situation. Let's go on to our football picks, man. Is there anything else I'm forgetting before we get going on this?
Probably.
Dude, it was a busy week, and unfortunately I got a hard out today, so we got to cruise through this super fast. I beat you by 1 last week. I went 13-3. You went 12-4. So now your lead is whittled down to 2 on the season. You are 56-24. I am 54-26. Let's do this. Tampa Bay at Philly. By the way, good pick on Philly last week. I thought you were nuts when you did it, but it was an outstanding pick. You're the only one I saw pick them.
Thank you. I got Tampa Bay.
Same. Miami at Jacksonville. I got the Dolphins.
Got to.
Cincinnati at Detroit. I got the Bengals.
Absolutely.
Although Detroit's going to win one of these at one point, right?
Detroit's always around and in there and losing tragically, losing out of the last.
Dude, last week was insane. They went for 2 going up. I mean, that was an insane loss. I watched that whole thing. Houston and Indy.
I got Indianapolis.
I do too. How about I skipped one? Green Bay at your Chicago Bears. You're going Green Bay, right?
Of course. Come on now.
KC at Washington.
Whoop, KC.
Are they in trouble?
No. They better start showing us something, though.
They have to. I mean, it's one of these things where you can keep losing for only so long before it becomes real.
The real question at this point is, how hard do you want to make it on you? They're probably going to peak at the right time. Do you want to have a little home field or not?
Right. Good point. Chargers at Baltimore.
This is a hard game.
This is a tough one. This is going to be a big one.
And can't remember who I picked. This is all off my dome. I'll go Chargers, but it's at home. Baltimore is who I went. Baltimore.
I went Baltimore as well. Let's see here. Rams at Giants. You got to be going Rams, right?
No doubt. Let's go LA.
Minnesota at Carolina. Minnesota. Miracle win for my Vikings last week. That was beautiful.
And this is a hard game for me, especially Carolina coming off a loss. I think I went with Minnesota, in all honesty.
I went with Carolina in this one.
There you go.
This is going to be a big one for us. Arizona and Cleveland. Arizona, man, I just don't know what to do. There are injuries all over the place. Kyler Murray has a shoulder injury. It sounds like it's not a big deal, but then you look. I think the Cardinals have 7 people or 11 people on the questionable list, whereas the Browns have 17 on the questionable list. So who's even going to be playing? I don't know. I'm going to ride with Arizona, though. They haven't let me down so far.
I figured you would. I'm going Cleveland. as long as it's not Myles Garrett, Nick Chubb, or Baker Mayfield.
Guess what? Guess who's on the questionable list? Nick Chubb and Myles Garrett.
Perfect. Question it.
You're still gonna go. All right, man. All right.
It's good, man.
They are good.
Their 2 losses are crazy losses. Like, they're good.
That's true. Dallas at New England.
Dallas all the way. Keep riding those Cowboys, huh?
Yep, you got to. Let's see. Vegas at Denver. Now, I mean, normally I'd be picking Vegas right now, but what's going on there? What are they thinking? What's going on in the locker room? I got to go Denver, I think.
That's right. Snow, snow, snow. Let's go Denver.
Seattle at Pittsburgh. No Russell Wilson. So I got to think you're going with Pittsburgh.
No question about it.
Although I saw someone on Twitter, and it was one of the funniest tweets I've read, that Ben Roethlisberger looks like a jar of mayonnaise running around out there.
That's rude.
It's rude, but it's not wrong. It's not wrong. And then the Monday night capper, Buffalo, Tennessee.
Such a toss-up. Such a toss-up. I got Tennessee.
Ooh, really?
Tennessee was in the AFC Championship last year, weren't they? It was at Buffalo. I mean, they went far.
It's
They're
one
good.
of those two. But Buffalo,
they have
man.
Henry. Like, they got to prove something. I mean, Buffalo's 4-1. They're not undefeated. Tennessee's 3-2.
But Buffalo is like really good, dude.
Is Julio Jones and AJ Brown playing? I didn't even look. I just went with my gut.
I don't know.
Julio Jones is always hurt. I got Tennessee in 62. It's going to be high.
I don't know, dude. Buffalo is really, really good. They beat the hell out of the Chiefs last week. Beat the hell out of them.
In trouble.
Well, I was asking you, do you think they're in trouble? And you said no.
Derrick Henry beats the hell out of everyone.
Well, yeah, dude, it's true. The guy's
give the
beast.
ball to that dude and just play action off it occasionally.
That's true. That's all you can do, man. And then I don't know if you remember your tiebreaker. You don't have it in front of you. Mine is 48.
I got 62.
62.
Yep.
Woo. So you think, and for those who don't know, the tiebreaker is it's for our football board that we're on, but it is the total score of the Monday night game every week. 62. That's a big one. You confident in that?
Absolutely. I was confident last week. You're lucky I wasn't tied with you.
It's true. Last week I was in a 4-way tie for the win, and I lost on the tiebreaker. So
and I hit 56 on the dot.
Oh, you had 56?
Yep.
Man, what is going on with you? You've been eating your Wheaties this year. This is great. You're like on fire, dude.
Cheerios, man. Honey Nut Cheerios.
I got to run to the store real quick and grab some of those because I got to get my brain.
Fall's coming. I have a very bad feeling in my stomach that it's gonna start going like this.
Don't start thinking that way, man. You're doing good. You're killing it every single week.
We shall see.
But that is the end of episode 383. We blew through a lot of stuff very quickly this week. We will next week, I'm sure, be able to have a little bit more in-depth conversation about the Utes, Cougars, and Aggies, and also, of course, the Utah Jazz, who will have played a game by the time we record next week. So we're excited for that. So come back. And in the meantime, let us know what you think of the show or anything going on with your teams and the world of sports. Send us an email to doganddeuce@gmail.com. I'm Dog.
And I'm Deuce.
We'll see you next week.
Thanks for making us a part of your day.